James is going to do his news on Earth changes, and then we'll have on our guest, Les Odell. So stay tuned to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark, and we'll be back in a flash.
You thirst for some significance of the both dimensional kind. You enter a realm of spirit, of sight and sound and mind. Your radio is a cosmic doorway and your psyche begins to spark. When you tune in to Gary Anderson and Night Dreams After Dark.
Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you The World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
I'm James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and World Changes News. Plane passengers films weird rectangular glow above the clouds in Kazakhstan. Now, during a flight from the city Almaty to Petrokovsk in Kazakhstan on December 23, 2019, a passenger noticed a strange rectangular glow above the clouds on which he decided to film it. And the film is very intriguing, I must say. Also, the star Betelgeuse, could it be going supernova? Well, according to many scientists, one of the brightest stars in the night sky is exhibiting signs that its explosive demise might not be too far away. New aircraft improves NASA's ability to detect radiation. 3 new aircraft that measure radiation were unveiled last week by the National Nuclear Security Administration. The aircraft will replace older equipment and will be used by teams based in Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. Also, Homo erectus lived alongside modern humans. And one of our ancient ancestors held on for so long that it was still around when modern humans arrived on the scene. Also, there is a mysterious mutant grave-dwelling super cockroaches discovered in Malta recently. A sign, strange green lights moving in the sky over Long Beach and Willow Creek have been filmed. And also, the images and a video showing strange green lights seemingly flying in the sky over Long Beach and Willow Creek in California. That was December 24th. That was just a few days ago. And while the witnesses in Long Beach captured images of the several green and yellow objects in the sky, the witnesses in Willow Creek managed to take a video of many green lights moving around at a high altitude. Also, Pentagon warns the military not to use DNA test kits. Many people are they're using these kits and sending away for DNA tests to check their genetic heritage. And the government officials have warned that companies may exploit genetic materials for questionable purposes. Next news break, top of the hour.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're back, and we're going to get a hold of Les right now and get him on the show. So let's do that. And I tell you, yeah, a DNA thing could come back and bite you down the road, or who knows? I don't know. But I think at this point they got about half the country on DNA, back up on the, data banks and all that stuff. Hey, Les, you're on Night Dreams Talk Radio. How you doing?
I'm doing very good. How are y'all?
I'm doing good. And did you have a great Christmas?
I had a wonderful Christmas. How was yours?
We celebrate ours on the Saturday because of all the family members and their kids, and I'm getting old. I'm near 110, and they have their kids, so they have theirs at their house on Christmas, and they come over on Saturday, and we have our typical ham like we do every year. Of course, that's better than years ago when it used to be just oatmeal. That's not true. But anyway, we celebrate our Christmas on, Saturday is always, or the first Saturday after Christmas.
That's good.
And you know what? I'll be honest with you. Don't tell anybody this. But it's a lot cheaper because you know what? My wife will do a lot of the shopping tomorrow, but don't let anybody know. So if any of my family members are listening to the show tonight, you didn't hear me say this. But she goes out, like by tomorrow and does most of the shopping because she can save a lot of money.
A smart lady.
Yeah. Now, of course, it doesn't make the difference. I'm going to get underwear like I do every year, and I'm going to get the same 3 colognes I get every year, going back for the last 20 years that I don't use. But if anybody wants some cologne with a sailing ship on it, I'm more than happy to donate it to you because I can't stand it. But that's just me. Well, hey, Les, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? What got you into cryptids, UFOs, and ghosts and all that stuff?
I'm just your average little West Virginia country boy, but had things as a kid, an experience with a shadow person figure as a kid, and that led to me having an interest in anything paranormal, and then recently got into, over the past few years, got into the cryptid stuff, and it's just snowballed from there.
Oh, wow. Now, have you seen any cryptids yourself, or UFOs, or anything like that?
No, nothing cryptid, no UFOs, just, like I said, the shadow person as a kid, and that stemmed into several years of, interest, growing up, and then eventually, like a lot of people do, is had that interest in investigating and researching and looking into this, looking for answers or why things like that happen.
Oh, yeah. Now, how old were you when you saw this shadow person? And can you describe, with your memory, what it was like?
It was somewhere between the ages of 7 and 8. I do remember I was in second grade. We had moved to this old farmhouse when I was a child, and I remember having an uneasy feeling the whole time from the time we moved in, and it just, I had a feeling like there was something strange in the house. And I'd walk by doorways and it feel like, something was there going to grab you from doorways. And, I mean, a lot of that can be explained by, an overactive imagination, I'd say, you could say, for a child. But then I would go, I had a bedroom I shared with my brother at the time. We had bunk beds. And I remember sleeping on the bottom bunk, and I could see shadows would go across the wall, across the room, the wall that was across from me. But they would go from one side of the room to the other. And I would see these, and I'd get frightened and just pull the blankets up over my head and, hope they'll all go away. And eventually when I uncovered my head, they were gone. But it done that over several days. I mean, I don't think I don't remember it being consecutive days, but it had happened over several days that we lived there. And I couldn't even scream for my dad. He was just like, I was in that much fear. I couldn't even scream for him. I just would cover up, hope it all go away. And then one night I was laying there and I started watching him. I could see him moving again along the walls. That's when I noticed this bigger one. I almost call it like an overseer of the other ones. It was standing in the corner of the room, across the room. And that completely terrified me. I froze. Like I said, I couldn't scream for my dad again. I tried. I remember trying as hard as I could. Covered my head up and just hoped it all went away. And the next night, I remember looking over and they were there again. And this time I kind of sat up in the bed and scoot up against the wall. And I remember this thing turning. It turned its head, looked at me, and then rushed to the side of the bed and was probably, I'd say, less than 8 to 10 inches from my face. It leaned in, and I could see the clear definition of the shape. I couldn't see facial features or anything, but I could see that shape, the head, the neck, the shoulders. And it almost looked like the blackness inside of it was like a dark smoke, kind of like an extremely black smoke, and it just like would roll, like it was just moving around inside that shape. And I was terrified, and it backed away, and eventually just kind of it didn't vanish. It kind of faded out through into the room and went out the doorway. And that was then not too long after that we moved, and I didn't see it again after that.
Yeah, I only seen one shadow person. I was probably around about your age. We lived in Seattle growing up, and one of my grandmothers lived in Oakland, California, in an old apartment that was built in the 1880s and something in Oakland, California. And I got shipped out there to be with her supposedly for a couple weeks, and then to my uncle with him and his family, because he had a bunch of kids. And the first night, my grandmother lets me sleep in this bedroom, huge bedroom with a walk-in closet. The bed dropped out from the closet down onto the floor. And it was kind of eerie. The doors weren't solid. They were doors with glass, and all that stuff. I remember going to bed, and there was a little nightlight in that closet. And myself, I remember seeing a shadow come out of the closet and slowly go around the whole room. And then it went back into the closet. And the next morning, I was so terrified, just like you. I covered up with a blanket like, hey, if something's going to grab me, right, is covering up with a blanket going to help? I mean, the only way it's going to help is you don't see it if it grabs you, or you won't know about it till it grabs you. But that was my encounter. The next morning, I told my grandma, I am sorry. I am not going to stay here. This place is haunted or something. And when you're a young kid, you see something like that, it terrifies you. Now, did you go to your mom and dad and say, hey, I saw this shadow person or this shadow come out and go around the room and all this stuff? Did you, or did you hold that in with you?
I knew that my mom wouldn't have believed me if I told her. I knew my dad. I knew, we talked about the paranormal